What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. This episode is brought to you by On Hand VAs, your go-to for client-facing, office-based virtual assistants. Their systemized onboarding process is key to seamlessly integrating VAs into your insurance agency. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of LAF Advisors in Long Island, New York. Mr. Fitzgerald, how are we doing today, sir?
Dude, things are great, but I'm not going to lie. I feel a little outnumbered today.
Yeah.
3 people from Utica and just me by myself over here in downstate New York. So
the Utica power is back.
I'm a little nervous.
You'll know all about it when you come up for the Big I event in May. We'll have all the greens laid out, all the riggies laid out, the half moons. You bring a notebook. That's all I got to tell you.
Okay, gotcha.
That's all I got to tell you. But we're going to jump right into today's episode. I'm super excited to have Rowan from Agency CFO on the show. We had Rowan Kayla back a few episodes back, but today we're going to do something a little different and talk specifically about partnerships. This came up in a conversation that Sean and I were in a different group chat, and we thought, man, there hasn't really been a ton of content out there about partnerships. If a partnership comes up, if the conversation comes up, what to look for, what to do, and the things to walk through. And we thought, what better to have the folks in the agency CFO on. So Don and Ro, first off, thank you for taking the time to join us here today. We really appreciate it. How are you?
We are wonderful. Thank you so much. We love spending time with you guys. And this time I brought the big guy, brought the chief CFO here. So
great topic. It's a great topic.
Well, let's jump right into it. And again, I'll have to reference the episode. I believe it was 42, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll have to reference that when we had Ro, you back on the show and learned about the story of Agency CFO. But to save some time and get right to it, let's talk about the partnerships. Let's let you guys kind of start. When someone maybe comes to you and says, "Hey, we may have an opportunity here to partner, and we think it's going to be this great big thing," and all of that, and you have all that excitement, what are some of the discussions that you're having in that discovery session of that partnership discussion?
Yeah, I'm likely not very excited when I hear that. I'm likely not very excited. And you talk about excitement, and excitement is an emotion. And that's where partnerships can fail, because partners are oftentimes emotionally entered into without ever any thought of, well, at some day a partnership is going to end. And nobody ever thinks about that's the missing aspect. We're all excited to begin a partnership.
it's entrepreneurial.
Absolutely. Sure. It's fun.
That's why we're in
it's
it.
Exciting. There's money to be made. It's everything that everybody enjoys. And yet there's so much that's going to happen over the life of that partnership, and we see so many bad outcomes.
I like to add one statement to this. I say, welcome to marriage. Because when it's true, this is a business marriage. So my approach when we hear anything about this, we say, well, you better start dating the person. Because you really need to date. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? What are their natural traits and tendencies? How do they approach? So when we think of the dating world and we think of personal relationships, how do you approach family? How do you approach children? How do you approach finances and facility, your house? What does that look like? You need to put that all in the context of a business partnership. How do you approach family? Well, that could be your succession plan. Are you going to bring your kids in the business someday? How do you approach children? That's how you're going to treat your employees. In terms of what does discipline look like? What do promotions look like? It is a business marriage.
So you think about a marriage and how much thought.
And we know a little bit about that.
How much you think about
just a little.
How much people contemplate, it's a huge event in your life. And it's not one taken lightly.
Stephen just got married are you approaching 2 years, Stephen?
Coming up 2 years, yes.
I thought so.
All right. So the normal couples, there's a lot of thought and consideration before a couple gets married. And yet, oftentimes we hear these owners talk about, we're going to partner.
And we're like, whoa.
And it's done on a whim. It sounds like we're just going to partner. No. that same type of consideration as you would think about a marriage, that same type of contemplation and thought and planning and getting to know each other needs to be put into a business partnership. And that's where we see partners going wrong. It's like everybody just wants to jump in. Yeah, we're just going to partner. No.
So would you say a good way to battle that excitement is to say, hey, if the idea comes up, maybe wait 6 months to a year just to
Absolutely.
see. Okay.
And
That
do
makes
the
sense.
date. You got to have the date. So that's perfect, Sean. So let's take a 6-month time frame. You're dating an individual that you're interested in. For what does the first 6 months of a personal relationship look like? Well, there's lunches, there's dinners, there's get-togethers, there's family introductions, there's friendship introductions. If you put that into a business context, yes, you're going to sit there. Oh, what do you like? How do you manage an employee? How do you treat a prospective client? How do you treat a client? So those are the conversations that have to evolve.
Yeah, and here's what I'm going to guess, mate. After 6-month waiting period, very few partnerships, a very small percentage are going to go forward. Why is that?
Wow.
It's natural. That excitement, the emotions are going to come out of it, and logic is going to rule the world. And when you look at it logically, from a logical perspective, it's not going to look nearly the same. Again, once we start making decisions based upon logic and let the emotions go out of it, it's going to look a lot different.
So then after 6 months and you're in the introduction phase, you're introducing them to employees. You're introducing them to vendors and business partners, and hopefully your mentors, your CPA, your attorneys, let other people join the conversation, because they may, just like when you bring someone home and your family might see something that you don't, you want your business mentors, your business sphere to understand what might you not be seeing. What's the slight comment that this person makes that triggers an alarm bell that they may not have made to you? And that's really, really key, because this is a very human process. And so I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit,
Sure.
because this will be part of the context. It's been a new theme that I've been on for a couple of weeks now in our client conversations. And the theme is, what does day 2 look like? Day 1, it's the acquisition or the merger or the new employee hire or the new line of business you've started. And it's my mind, for some reason, and I don't know where it came from, but my mind has been going to day 2. What does day 2 look like? What happens after all the papers are signed? So I think while you're in this dating phase of a prospective partner, you got to think about, it's fun to make all these entrepreneurial plans, but what happens in day 2 and you have to start executing? What does that feel like? What does that look like? And can you live with it?
So spot on about comparing it to a marriage, because I'm going to be completely transparent here. And you said it Ro, where it's like, you're entrepreneurs. You're just generally excited about new things, right? And that is so accurate. So I completely agree that you should have a really thought out plan. And I almost think too, you mentioned dating, right? And my mind kind of went to, all right, how is there some ways you can date on the business side of things? And maybe that would be sharing some resources prior to.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
There's
And do you see
arrangements, right? We could work out potentially a short-term arrangement to collaborate and share some growth or some success without being technically partners.
What I would like to say, and I'm going to pull my MBA card right now, because I worked really hard for those letters and I like using them. So if we put our MBA hat on, and Don always says, he laughs when I say it, why don't you guys do a SWOT analysis together? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Do a client survey together. Do a strategic plan together. Plan out what 3 years looks like. Because if you can't agree on what the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of this partnership looks like, if you can't agree on how would you design a client survey asking 10 questions of what else could we offer? How can we increase our value to you? And then if you can't set those 1 to 3 goals, that's your trial run. If you can't do those things, don't do it.
And all those things you're mentioning take a lot of time. So
They do.
Personally, I think 6 months is too short.
That just starts it. But they take more than time, Sean. There's a key word they take. Compromise.
Sounds
You're
like
right.
a marriage again.
There you go.
It is. So as we go on, that's going to be the theme.
That's the theme.
And there's a lots more that are going to be long term.
Mm-hmm.
So let's dive into that dating phase then. So you two parties, we all get excited, and then we come and you guys are like, let's think about this, right? Let's take this time. Like you said, I love one thing you said is set the date. We're not going to maybe do anything until this date. We're going to discuss it. We're going to plan it. We're going to go through that. What in this situation does the dating phase look like?
I do believe at the start, you think about your first few dates, your first few weeks, you're excited. Yeah, have the dinners, have the lunch meetings. Absolutely. Build that excitement. You have to build rapport. That actually, Stephen, that would be if I had the 5 things, let's start with build rapport. You may be friends, you may have known each other, whatever, but build the business rapport. Start speaking that same language of how do you do a prospect meeting? How do you do a client renewal? How do you remarket something? It's the how do you do that build rapport.
Yeah, get very granular in the details.
Yeah,
I like that.
And build it slowly, not the first date. Start at the 30,000 foot and you start coasting in deeper, but you're building that common language, which is what people do when they date.
Gotcha. And Don and Ro, what do you, from a personality standpoint, the partnerships that you see that are successful and that work well, do you find that each partner's personality is completely different? It's a mix of both? I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Well, let's start with our own. I think we're kind of successful. I like to think we're successful. We've been together for 26 years. We're going to be approaching our 23rd wedding anniversary this summer.
Congratulations.
So I'm gonna go with that. I think we built a business and we're still smiling. So in terms of personality balance, absolutely we're opposites. But we have shared vision.
Yeah. Yes, it can work either way. Yeah. And I don't think that's probably the determining factor to success.
Gotcha. No, but if they are both, so we use Kolbe, Kolbe. It's about a $50 personality traits assessment. It's I think it's the A index. We highly recommend it. It's a great snapshot and it's easy to describe because are you a fact finder? Meaning what's your research? Yep. What's your follow through? What's your quick start? And then implementer. But let's focus on the 3. In terms of fact finder and follow through, Don is like an 8 out of 9. He's high in that. I'm only a 5.4. He's my balance. In terms of quick start, how quickly do you jump in? How quickly do you move? And I think you guys can see by this podcast, I jump in. I'm a 9. I'm an absolute 9. And he is my balance. He's like a 3.4. Great balance. So yeah, if you have 2 9s and a quick start, you better have someone batting cleanup to do the follow through, to do the research. Mm-hmm. There is a need for balance. Yeah. Now, you may have an employee who does that, but a
So
successful
I
partnership.
think either way it could work. Two similar partners or two opposite partners, I think both can work as long as they understand who's in charge of what and how that's going to work. I don't think that's the determining factor.
I got you. Yeah, have the roles and responsibilities right now. And I think what you guys said before too kind of plays into it too is, are they willing to compromise? Are both of you willing to compromise? You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a great point.
Sean, I'm going to tell you our secret on this, because we're lucky in our partnership. We have that balance of personalities. We don't need we have our mentors and we listen to our team, but we have a natural balance. But what we'll do is, and we've learned this, both in marriage and in business, my quick start, I'm always ideas. I just consume them. And if I get something that I'm really passionate about, I'll go up to them and I'll say, controversial topic. This is my newest idea. Here it is. I have got to express it. I'll be back to you in 24 hours or 48, or I'll come back.
I love that.
And my quick start may temper down, and I might be like, yeah, I'm good. Yeah. It was a good idea. Or I may be like, no, I really do believe this.
And that's why my initial reaction to anybody coming to me with a partnership idea is, there's no what are we rushing for? There's no need to rush.
Right.
Yeah. That's a great point.
What I love about looking at it like dating is, and Rowan, I mean, you were picking it in there specific a little bit too, is like, hey, this is how I do this process. How would you do it? And like what I love about that is you get to learn that person, that business operation so much deeper than asking just the general question of if X, Y, and Z was to happen, you know, when you're bringing up different scenarios inside of an agency, inside of any business itself. That's really powerful. I think that's a great way to put it.
We're old. We've been there. We've seen it. You know, we've seen it, people dating each other. We've seen it, businesses, and we have seen business breakups. We have been employees in business breakups, and we have been advisors to business breakups. And when you see it play out, it gets really ugly really quick.
Which I definitely want to get to. But if we're continuing the journey here, we've gone through dating. And maybe we've taken the personality test. Things are linking up. Partner A is a 3, partner B is a 9, whatever. And we've taken our time. We're 6 to 8 months down the road. What do the next steps kind of look like?
Engagement.
Okay.
Now you start talking to the lawyers, the CPAs. What is this going to look like?
So I don't know. I quote the statistic. I think it's a well-known statistic that most marriages fall because of what?
Finances.
And in the world of partnership is drafting that partnership operating agreement.
It's the engagement.
Which comes down, and it's almost like a prenup, whatever you want to call it, but it's how we're going to share money. And this is where really things can really go bad is, we're going to be 50-50 partners. No, you're not.
No.
50-50 partner is one of the most, it's the we'll split it 50-50. No, 50-50 is a really dangerous place to be in because neither partner, therefore, has control. And without control, a tie. One says one thing, one says another. Now you're 50-50 partners. Nobody can do anything. Dangerous situation.
I want to pause you there. If you're in a 50-50 situation, who suffers the most? The employees and the clients.
Hold on a second, just on this one topic. Would you say it's, if someone was considering partnering, that a third person gets involved?
That's
not necessarily.
Not necessarily. That's a whole other layer. Because you're going to have now 3 voices. No one's ever going to be equal. And
I gotcha.
So whether this is 2 people, 3 people, 10 people.
It's always better to have one party that has more of a controlling interest.
There's always one captain to the ship, right?
And that's then that's going to be tough. And that may be why, that's why we're so cautious about it. That can be a deal breaker. Oh, everybody wants to lead. No, somebody is going to, one of the partners, if we're talking 2 people now, somebody really needs to be 51, 55, 60%
CEO.
Somebody's got to run, is going to lead, and somebody's going to follow. And that can be really difficult.
Gotcha. Wow. I wasn't
Great
expecting
points.
that answer.
50-50 does not
Absolutely not.
work. Worst
And we have seen it, I mean, multiple times. This isn't just one example in our head where 50-50 has failed.
Okay. Interesting.
This is an ongoing, and it's a fallacy to think you can be 50-50. You can't.
Cannot.
Okay.
You can't.
So one of the things that you touched on there a little bit as far as like the expenses go, as a business owner and the only owner,
Yeah.
sometimes personal expenses go on the business, your car, whatever the case, your cell phone bill, whatever the case
Cell phone
is.
goes with
Let's
go with cell phone, Sean. That's a
yes.
good,
Let's
a good
go.
one.
So if we were to partner, right, and I was to bring on another partner, how do you work out those personal expenses? I'm assuming you just have to assign like some sort of budget.
Yeah, that's one of the problems. It's a smaller problem. There's bigger issues, but let's talk about this one first, because this is an easy one in the big scheme of thing. But you're right. This one can be contentious when there's different philosophical issues. Of one that, you have one partner who says, yeah, let's run everything we can through the business. And another partner who says, no, let's keep the books really clean. No, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Immediately you have a problem. Now you have a partnership problem that's not easy to solve. And it comes to philosophical differen's. Now
go back to dating. Put that in the dating bucket.
You've got a philosophical difference, and Rose's talking about are you guys willing now there's this opportunity, are going to compromise, or what are we going to do?
And let's add some complexity to it. What if two agencies? All right, I'm gonna go T5 and Sean. So Steve and Sean are approaching Rowan Don like, we're going to be partners. This is great. We do the podcast together. We're friends.
We're going to do it.
Let's go. Right? And we look at you, and Stephen has a great office in Clinton, New York. And for this exercise, Stephen, you own the property, okay?
Sounds good to me.
Beautiful new office. Gorgeous. He wants rent from this merged company. Oh, how do you handle that? He sets up another holding company for his real estate. So the agency is paying him rent. So he's actually pocketing more money out of the partnership. Multiply this by 100, guys, because there's 100 of these situations.
Wow.
Vehicles, do you want a company vehicle? Oh, I just got this really big, expensive vehicle. What do you mean you just got that? I'm driving a 10-year-old something. These issues happen all the time.
Daily.
And it is just like a marriage. And that's why it is the perfect analogy, because exactly everything that you experience happens because you have different, unless you have identical philosophies. Yeah. You've got to deal with all these issues.
I'm so sorry. We're obviously passionate about this
because
he made me think of something else. What else do you have in this whole dating, engagement, marriage dynamic? You each have separate families. That is one thing that will transfer to a business relationship. Stephen's wife, Sean's wife, Stephen's parents, Sean's parents, everyone's going to have an opinion on your business. I'm sure most agency owners out there have felt this. And now you're bringing two families together, just like a marriage, but there's a little, I want to say even more at stake, because there's legacy, there's money, there's finances. Well,
we haven't gotten to the children yet.
But still, when I just said a few minutes ago, multiply this by 100 of these little issues.
These are the small ones.
Yeah.
Irritating.
Sounds like you're going to need like 5 years before you come up with a partnership.
Now, all right. So everything keeps passing the test. Let's get back to a positive mindset.
Yeah.
Everything keeps passing the test. We've passed the dating. We've passed the engagement. Everyone's happy legally. We've done the trial runs of the typical. We've budgeted. We've done a strategic plan. We've done a SWOT analysis. We've figured out a lot. We're in the marriage, and there are positives to it. So let's focus for a few minutes, if you guys are good, because I've totally taken this over as usual.
Love it.
That's great. This is great.
Focus on the positive. So what are some of the benefits you see, and not us on the marriage side, on the business relationship side?
And I think so many, as you found, if you were a sole owner, it's a very lonely place. Having a partner can bring complementary skill sets, but it also, at the end of the day, it's great having somebody just to say, hey, give me a reality check. Do we do this? We're going to hire you got this great candidate. Do we make the hire? Do we not make the hire? Having somebody to talk to pick you up when you fall, to high five with, there is a lot there, because otherwise it can be very lonely.
Makes sense.
I'm not going to add. That was perfect. That was perfect. You said it.
That was. What with the people that you've worked with that have come through, and you bring them through this dating phase, I want to back up to something. I mean, what you said about 50-50 partners makes sense. And it always, I don't think when we, preparing for this podcast and thinking of some questions that would provide value to the listeners, I kind of just glossed over that, because you think of partnerships. We're a partner. You got 50, I got 50. It makes complete sense. But
I agree.
When you get to that crossroad with the people that you're talking to that want to do this, how does that discussion look like of, okay, no, it doesn't make sense to do this, and here's why. And then both people have the light bulb that goes off. What does the next step look like in that discussion of who gets 51, who gets 55, whatever? I'm
going to tell you, it's extremely rare that the partnerships ever go forward. And
they don't pass the test.
And that's the reality. It's extremely, extremely rare that ever happens.
Interesting. Okay.
And because there's so much compromise.
It sounds like it. It sounds like, and we didn't even touch on everything.
Yeah, and I know I want to make sure where time goes by quickly. Here's the reality. If I want to give the listeners the most important piece of advice, here's what happens. People change.
Yeah.
And when you become partners, you're in one mindset. But if you're going to be in a partnership for 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, 30, you're not going to be the same people over time. And this is what happens.
Such a good point.
Why partnerships fail over time is people grow apart and partners grow apart. One partner wants to keep all the money in the agency. Another partner says, no, I want to take all the money possible out of the agency. I want to hire. I want to grow faster. I want to have acquisitions. No, I want to organically. And what doesn't exist, the most important thing of an operating agreement when you're forming a partnership, how do we get out of it?
The divorce.
No one ever talks about that.
No, because that's not exciting. That's it's the least fun thing to talk about. It is the most important thing to. What happens if we wake up one day and we realize that all the reasons why we partnered are no longer valid, and the best thing we can't, they're irreconcilable differences, and we need to unpartner. We need to separate. That is the key. If you're going to go into a partnership, you better have you got to build the same intensity of plan of how to get out of the partnership, and that's never done or so rarely done. That's the problem.
And I want to add, I'm going to actually add to this. It's even worse when it's a family partnership.
Yep.
And we'll just leave it. We'll just let that one stay there.
Because
nothing else said.
The lines are blur.
Yep. So leaving that said.
There you go.
Now, if you guys are good, I have a different idea.
Please.
Instead of the legal partnership, look at strategic alliances. The one thing we have found in the independent insurance industry, which really kind of surprised us, well, you for 20 years, you've seen it, is the amount of cooperation and collaboration between agency owners.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we have some that tear each other down, but we have more that build each other up. So rather than looking at a traditional on paper LLC partnership or however it's the business structure, how can you strategically align with other agency owners where you do you run your agency, but where can we combine and share IT or lines of business or whatever? Is it an aggregator?
What are the other options?
What are the other options?
Yeah, sure.
That's a great point.
I'll make 2 points. One is it's really easy to start a partnership. Lawyer drafts the agreement, sign here.
Well, you can go to Vegas and get married too.
It's really easy to get in. Dissolving the partnership is oftentimes really, really hard. And that's what everybody forgets. Easy to begin, hard to get out. Now, there's another form of partnership topic that goes right into this, what we hear all the time, and that is, I'm going to hire somebody and I'm going to share some equity right away. And that's a form of a partnership. When you're given equity, essentially you're forming essentially a partnership because they're co-owners. And we hear this all the time, and we offer the same advice, whether it's a 50-50 partner, whatever we talk about partnership, or you are entering into an equity agreement where there's a transfer of equity. It's similar concept. Same thing. The waiting period. You don't know somebody, don't share equity, don't be transferring equity until you're sure you're a great fit. And it's kind of a really similar to what we're talking about. Same thing. Whenever it's a share of equity, easy to do, very, very difficult to ever undo or unwind. So that's
when
why
day 2 hits.
That whole waiting period, whenever we're talking about an equity share of any sort, the waiting period is key.
I'm going to add one more thing to that. Don't give away your equity. Don't gift it. Do not. You've worked hard. You've built this company. There are incredible strategies for profit sharing, for buying equity. Do not gift it. Because as John just said, you can't take it back.
Right.
No backsies.
You guys are so good.
Speaking of that alternative view, one thing that I want to just dive a little deeper on is the strategic alliances that you just said.
Yes.
From your guys' experience of people that you have that come to you, and maybe we're passing the dating phase, but you get to the 50-50 thing and there's no way them or whatever, or one of these conversations stops it, but you say, well, let's look at it from this view. What do some of those conversations look like with clients?
I'm thinking of a specific group of clients we have that they actually referred all of each other to us. And that's how we came. It started with one, and it was this incredible ripple effect. And what I see is there's elements of mastermind where it's not a mastermind where you're going just to drink all weekend and play poker. I know you guys, or to golf all weekend. It's the elements of, hey, you putting it out to your trusted core. Let's call them your trusted core of other agency owners that I've got this real issue with this employee, or, I've got this opportunity for this incredible prospect. How do I land this deal? It's all of those things Don said just a little while ago of the benefit of having a partner, someone to bounce ideas off of, someone to get advice from, someone to cheer when, hey, I did it. I landed this new client. It's huge. This is a game changer. Or this new employee, or, hey, I have this candidate for an employee. Can you interview them for me? Am I missing something? Use those agency owners who are like-minded. You make sure you're like-minded. You've got to be.
Where the deal breaks down almost every time is when they start drafting a contract and they start talking compensation to each other. And, it all sounds good in theory, but when they get down to negotiating, oh, I want this cut of this. I brought you that for every new business referral I give you, I want this and new business, and I want a renewal, and I want this. And that's where it generally just ends. Money is the sharing of money is oftentimes where everything breaks down. We see it happen time and time again.
Absolutely.
So
Excuse me.
I feel like, I don't know why I'm stuck on strategic alliances now.
That's good. I want you to be that.
You mentioned the ideas, advice, maybe even interviewing for each other, which I think is phenomenal advice. What about What about certain employees? Would it be possible to share like a virtual assistant or
Yes.
you know?
Yes. It's a great point.
A bookkeeper, an HR person,
We've seen
IT.
that. We've seen that be very, very
IT,
successful.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
We've seen that work very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And how do you split? How would that like
Cost
who?
share. Now, that's an easier financial negotiation.
Actually, yeah, that's not
Now,
bad.
that you can do 50-50. If you said, I need half of this person, the other one said, yep, I need the other half, and you say, okay, we're going to pay this person $50,000 a year. Okay, I'm going to put in 25. You're going to put in 25. That is an easier resolution.
And then you,
Gotcha.
well, it is, but then who's going to actually have the employee on their books? On whose books? Who's going to own the health insurance, the 401k, and make sure that there's an equal distribution of.
Yeah, no, that's
if it's a $50,000 salary and $10,000 of benefits, agency A might be the actual employer, but agency B may be kicking in $30,000 or $35,000.
That should be easy.
Yeah.
And if we can't,
except you got to think of bonuses and
tax benefit too.
So you think about
and evaluations, job performance.
If we can't figure out how to share an employee, then we sure can't figure out how to be full business partners, right? This is it's a micro example, and yet it's got its complexity. But if we can't solve that one,
there's something to it.
We should never be business partners.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what I've gotten from this whole conversation is like, if you're thinking of partnering, for the love of God, please share resources first, just to see how it goes. Yeah, that's great.
Try it out.
Yeah.
I don't mean this facetiously, though it's going to come out that way. Try before you buy.
Yeah, I get that too.
Yep. Well, one last thing with respect to your time, before we let's wrap this up, and this was incredible. But we talked a lot of the cautions and a little bit about the successes with the people that you guys have worked with over the years. Besides what we've talked about of the steps of how to do this, what are some like key successes that you've seen in partnerships that work really well?
Crickets?
Yeah, sure. We do.
It's rare.
It is rare. Understand first off that it is rare. Sometimes we see it work within families, and we have oftentimes we see husband and wives run agencies effectively.
Actually, it's really funny. We do, and it's actually something we enjoy when we have some of our clients, some of our agency CFO partners, our husband and wife. It's just a great dynamic. It can work really well. Define roles, and you got to know when not to talk after business after hours. It's really hard. It does infiltrate, but
we do see that as being one of the.
You're on the same team.
Yeah, maybe not an obvious success, but we do see that, and for us, we can share our own experience. You think about if you're married and sharing your life, what better than to share your business? So for some couples, it's absolutely the absolute right thing. And for other couples, it's absolutely the wrong thing. But that's something for if you're a married couple and you thought about, should you work the business together? You might, depending on your relationship, it might be a great thing.
Those are the most successful agency partnerships we have. Are all husband and wife.
Absolutely.
Very interesting. Yeah, because I don't know, I feel like a lot of different agency owners that I've spoken to, whether they're here on Long Island or in a different state, I feel like I started to notice a trend of like the larger agencies tend to all have multiple partners. I mean, maybe I'm not speaking to enough people, but it just seems like, the 100 million and above, it just seems like, oh, this person, they have 3 partners, they have 2, they have 4.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Because then it becomes less about the individual and more about the group dynamic.
Absolutely. And I think it's part of, especially in today's world, I think sharing equity is much more common. We've got producers who are demanding equity, or C-suite people that are demanding equity.
I gotcha.
And for perpetuation, it can oftentimes be a smart perpetuation strategy. It's another method of perpetuating. It's with partner, it's easier.
Gotcha.
But
Gotcha.
in terms of just having 2 or 3 partners, we had one a client go bad this year. We've seen it, or last year. So yeah.
And sometimes maybe it's even easier in a larger agency. I think the dynamics are different.
Absolutely.
Partnership dynamics probably are more favorable in a larger agency versus when you're just starting out, because of just resources, and it's a different aspect.
And the human element.
Yeah.
So when we look at your Scratch Agency podcast, it's for Scratch agencies, people who've built this from scratch. Don and I built this from scratch.
Right.
It is personal.
Yeah, and
It is absolutely personal. I believe when you talk about the $100 million or anything big,
it's more.
It's not so personal.
No,
chances are they didn't build it from scratch themselves.
Yeah, it's more about wealth transfer and
Yeah.
perpetuation. It's more of a business relationship, strictly business.
I gotcha.
There's not a lot of emotion in it. It's a business transaction.
That makes total sense.
And I'm sure to those points and those big ones that you've seen or dealt with, there's no 50-50.
Correct. Never.
You know,
Well, outside of insurance, we saw one once.
Sure.
Well, we got one in insurance, and it's problematic.
Yeah.
There you go.
So no, we well, it wasn't by choice. Let's talk about parent. If you're a parent, and sometimes they want to transfer to the next generation, 50-50 is problematic any way you look at it.
Right.
That's such a good point. It's something I never thought about.
So good. This was fantastic. And again, this conversation came up with someone who brought it to us like, hey, do you know any resources for this? Well, my biggest takeaway is seek the advice. Call the team with Don and Ro and have these conversations if you are even thinking of getting to that dating phase, because listen to the stuff in the last 42 minutes here that we've just touched on and just scraped. And guys, thank you so much for taking the time.
You're
For
very
those
welcome.
Thank you, guys.
that are listening, and even after all this, they still want to date and have those conversations, or just maybe there's one thing they want to talk to you about, what's the best way to get in touch with you guys and your team?
Why don't you email me, roe@agencycfo.com.
Awesome.
And I'll reach out personally. I mean, we are so grateful. We love you guys. We love that we can share our message. And truly, we've said this on any time, and it really is from the bottom of our heart. We're here to help.
Yep.
Appreciate
do appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you guys in May at the New York Big Eye event. We'll get Sean up here and introduce him to some real food. But everybody, that's another episode of the Scratch Agency podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. Most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, and own your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.